Cabinet Lekgotla is underway at the Presidential Guest House in Pretoria today. The meeting is aimed at setting the agenda for the year ahead and outline plans to deal with some of the crisis that we face as a country. Now, the Minister in the Presidency, Siphamandla Goge, is addressing the media. Let's take you there live.
Unemployment and so on, especially the profile of unemployment that really hit more young people than the elders. Looking at the underlyings of those issues. So this Lekgotla is going to spend a lot of time analyzing our performance, which we are dealing with now, and then answering the question, what are the key programs that actually can make a difference in a short space of time during the course of this year? In other words, how is the infrastructure performing? Where are the gaps? How do we correct that? The state of service delivery, you know, as I know, that there's a huge challenge in as far as service delivery is concerned. Number of people who don't have access to water and access to ablution and all those kind of things. All the dignity services, which are mainly delivered by local government. Those are the issues we're going to look at. The issue of crime, as I've said. How do we make sure that our security system include as many as possible? And how do we make sure that we keep our fiscal path? What do we mean by our fiscal path? In other words, to all the fiscal goals that we have committed to, that we are not found to be dilly-dallying in as far as the investor community is concerned. But having said that, you will realize that we would have said before as Partner Finance that we need to find a balance between the fiscal deficit and the oncoming redemption requirements. There are debts that must be paid out. There's also a challenging fiscal deficit that must be kept within particular level. At the same time, we must have money available to actually contribute to service delivery. At the same time, infrastructure and all other growth enhancing, what to call interventions. Those are the issues that we'll be dealing with here.
Thank you, Minister. So let's a few hands, and if you just show hand, and of course clearly I'm going to have to learn how to use a hat in these kind of environments. So let's have the first one from here, and then the second one from there. And you'll just introduce yourself, please.
Okay, can I start?
Yes.
It's Zintle Mahlati from News 24. Minister, can you tell us whether the government has sought legal advice regarding a national state of disaster? And if you have, what does it entail?
Listen, that's the matter we are looking at as we say now. Remember, the ruling party would have said everything should be done by the end of this year to do away with load shedding. And then there's a number, even in government, let me speak on behalf of government, because I'm not here in my capacity as a governing party. There's a strong desire in government to find ways of ending load shedding as quick as possible. Those who would have been present when the ESCOM interventions are articulated, there is a section which is normally presented by Rudy, the roadmap to end load shedding. First talking about possibly, if all those things are done, no less than 8,000 megawatts. So there's a lot of intervention, be it sourcing energy from outside. We are fast-tracking securing emergency, what to call power. Of course, the issue of skills and the issue of upping the ante in terms of maintaining the plant, so on. But having said that, I'm trying to, those are issues that are within our hands. But of course, there's a call that wouldn't a disaster declaration help us jump other processes which sometimes do not respond to the situation? We don't have a response yet with regard to whether there's a legal base for us to declare disaster. Investigations are being done. I hope we'll be advised as quick as possible in a manner consistent with the crisis that we're confronted with.
So have you asked for this legal advice? Like, have you
we've been asking for it.
You asked?
Yeah, we've been asking for it, and they've been looking at it. Yeah,
Thank you.
yeah.
colleague there, and then there's a gentleman there at the end, right? And then Governor at the back.
Minister, my name is Thando Maeko from the Business Day. So during the last state of disaster at the height of the pandemic, the government reprioritized around 500 billion rand to cushion pandemic-hit businesses and households. Does the government envision this state of disaster package to be that large, or what are the numbers that are being touted around, to support businesses and households that are being hit by load shedding, and sectors such as the agricultural sector, and other sectors? And then does it make sense, in your opinion, to have members of the cabinet in this Lekgotla who may not be there to carry on the mandate amid the looming cabinet reshuffle, of course? They're going to present their plans for their various departments, but then come maybe Sunday or Monday, then they won't be there.
Can you repeat your first question?
I'm saying...
Not the curious one.
I'm saying during the last state of disaster, the government reprioritized 500 billion rand to support pandemic-hit businesses and households. So for this state of disaster, does the government envision a package that large, considering, like you said, that we must remain within our fiscal path of achieving a primary surplus in 2024? How large does the package? How large will the package be? To cushion against load shedding.
Your name is Thando. My apology. Let me say this: the implications of declaring a state of disaster, it's a bridge we cross when we reached. It's difficult now to say, once there's a legal basis to declare a state of disaster, what will be the implications? Remember the COVID, when we declared the disaster, it dictated that monies be released for particular stressed situations. So to actually know what are you going to do, but let me say this: we are worried, and I've asked my team in the monitoring and evaluation to keep on analyzing the impact of this crisis in the broader societal situation. What that outcome will be and what it will mean to government is another issue. So that's my answer to that. The second one is that I know there's no way government will dodge this question. It doesn't matter whether you're a director or an assistant director, or even if you're not a president. Because we always said what you are asking is in the forte of the president. But having said that, the plans that gets adopted here don't belong to a particular minister. So irrespective of who is coming or who's going, the government plans are there. Remember, TPSA, there's no minister, which is the other one. 2 or 3 other departments have got no ministers. But government plans are ongoing. So what I'm saying is that plausibly your question might be interesting, but however, I want to reassure South Africans that what we adopt here is a government plan, not a particular minister's plan.
Gentleman here, and then Governor, and then this gentleman here, and then here. And please, can you keep the questions a little bit shorter, please? Okay, all right, here we go.
Minister, Samkele Masego from the SABC. Minister, on the issue pertaining to energy, what is the immediate task of government that is going to embark on, which is at the forefront of the deliberations right now, in ending load shedding, bar the issue of declaring a state of disaster? Secondly, is the President the only one chairing this cabinet Lekgotla, or is there a co-pilot in the form of the second in command next to him co-chairing this cabinet Lekgotla? And when can South Africans anticipate there to be stability in government, looking at the virtue that there is one vacancy of the Minister of Public Service and Administration who's not there, and also there is an outgoing Minister of Transport who needs to occupy a full-time position somewhere in Johannesburg at the 6th floor. Thank you very much, Minister. And also, lastly, on the issue pertaining to Zimbabwe, there's a question that I just need to ask you, coming from our boss.
You can see some got nothing to write. Yeah. Or you are misled by the big head.
You are very sharp.
Yeah, but let's just try and be a bit quicker.
The question is, it's relating to the Zimbabwean permits. What is South Africa's position when it comes to the Zim permits? It's particularly knowing that there's a briefing by the Zim embassy today.
Maybe let me start on that one. I know the particular conditions that instructed Zimbabweans to conduct themselves in a particular way up until a particular period is over. I do not have the latest update. I'll be very careful to give an answer in that one. I will await the Minister of Home Affairs. But let me come to your first question. If you look at our plan, Mr. Nyati, who is part of the board, who is running a subcommittee called, is it Operational Services, something like that, would have listed all the systemic factors and even the areas where urgent interventions. The immediate thing we need, I think Minister Goge has repeated that several times, is that we must bring our plans back to work in a manner required. That's the biggest challenge we're confronted with. Two, that we must ensure that there's a flow of megawatts to the system, and sources of that have been articulated. I'm saying to you now, we are trying to fast track accessing the emergency, what we call energy. Remember the ceiling for generation of megawatts from embedded, what we call from private sector, when it was removed, no less than 90 projects now in the pipeline. There's a number of interventions that are actually being made. You might have known that 6 power stations are under focus, where they are dealing with 2 or 3 issues: process, plant, and performance. So those are some of the issues. Now, I'm not able now to say what will it do in an hour and so on, but I'm trying to say there is an intervention which is actually deal with the agency as it presents itself within the capacity that we have. The second issue is that we've got a deputy president who is an incumbent. So all I can say is an apology that today is not there. So there's no story there whatsoever. But having said that, the president, Samkelo, has said it several times, that he's got a duty to fill those departments with ministers, because you need a healthy capacity as far as political leadership of government is concerned. Because acting here and acting here, the president would have said it a number of times, is not a helpful thing, because even the predictability by the bureaucracy is bad, because you need to know your political boss, what is his short, medium, and long term. When you work with Mondli, tomorrow is Tulas, and so on. I agree with you, it's a challenge, but President has actually told the country he is going to handle that. Whether last week or this morning or next week, please accept that we are not the president.
Thank you. Gentleman, Otto.
Stembile, go ahead. You go first.
No, I had you as the Stembile. I'm going to squeeze it.
The sun is very hot.
Channel 405. Is the government going to declare a state of disaster immediately after this, Lekgotla? How long will it take before you declare it? Does the government want to pay a relief grant to businesses who have been affected by the ESCOM incapacity? Could you please tell us who's leading the briefing on the state of ESCOM's plant recovery? Is it Minister Gordon or Minister Mantashe? How many apologies has Deputy President Mabuza now put in a row?
And why is he not here?
Your second question, Governor?
Does the government want to pay a relief grant? And then,
okay, all right.
You discussed the issue of Janet Yellen from the U.S. warning South Africa that breaking United States sanctions on Russia would have consequences for the South African government and business.
Your first question is...
when will you declare it?
Yes. I think we've said we're investigating. So to say when are we going to declare it? But what I want to reassure South Africans, because I think as a South African that's what you're worried about. What I want to assure, we are finding different measures which I've already articulated, with or without the state of disaster, to actually quickly make a difference in turning around the situation. Secondly is, again, the issue of relief. We can't speak about it when we have not even declared the state of disaster, and to check what are the implications of doing that. And I've said to you at the beginning, I've asked my team to actually analyze the impact of the state of disaster. We hope to, in a short space of time, to give a report, and what the government does with that is not in my hands.
Minister Mantashe and Gordon. Who's doing the ESCOM recovery of plants?
ESCOM is a state entity under Pravin Gordhan.
Yeah.
Minister Mantashe deals with the policy of energy security and availability.
And the Russians?
The Russians, I think Americans are very much aware that South Africa is a sovereign state. We are committed to participate in a manner that enhances the global peace. How we do that, at what time and when, it is South Africa that is going to decide. And we'll avoid doing that because of threats. But all what we want to say, we want to reassure anyone, including America, that South Africa will always participate in a peace-enhancing manner in the globe.
Thank you. Gentleman here, yes, gentleman, and then 10 minutes.
Siphamandla Goge from eNCA. Is it not strange that the Deputy President of the Republic, who is the leader of government business, who also happens to chair and oversee SOEs, is not attending a crucial cabinet Lekgotla? I know you say there is no story, but honestly, Minister, there must be something very important for a leader of government business not to attend the cabinet Lekgotla. What is it? Where is he?
I think the Deputy President has submitted his apology to the President. Evaluation of that, it's only the President who can do it. But to be honest with you, if he is sick, you do not determine at what frequency and a number of times you must get sick. Where I'm sitting, because the Deputy President has got no history of actually behaving like a truant and also going awool. He is a Deputy President who has demonstrated his respect for his work. I still want to view him in that context and respect his apology on the basis of that history and the knowledge I have about him.
Is he unwell? Is he sick?
He has extended apology.
Gentleman over here, please.
I'm going to ask two short questions. One is the cabinet reshuffle. Is it part of today's agenda? When are we likely to have the answer? And in that, are we likely to see any premiers recalled?
Cabinet Lekgotla does not do reshuffling. No structure, by the way, does reshuffling. It's only one individual who does reshuffling as the President. I request that no matter how we try, please let's live with that answer.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, DG. Minister Lekgotla from Bloomberg News. Just on the decision by the governing party that they want SOEs to return to their land departments, is there a feasibility study on that yet? Can you give a sense of how long that might take? Is it a 6-month thing? Is it more than a year? Just in terms of dismantling the Department of Public Enterprises and the return of those SOEs to their land departments. Thank you.
So we'll take a cue from the President in as far as that is concerned.
At this level?
Even in this Lekgotla, if it's an item that arises, remember, there's a lot of presentations that occur here, and then a lot of items, a lot of other issues arise as a result of that. Naturally, when such a decision is instructed to be taken, you analyze the implications. Depending on the implications, you implement. If there's a challenge, you report to your principal. Fiscal, that's my answer.
Okay, last question, gentlemen, on my right, because I didn't want to discourage you in my plans.
You're very kind.
It's Ndayezone Tonje from Power FM News. Mine is actually linked to hers. The governing party has made a recommendation for a reconfiguration of government departments. Is that on the agenda, or is that the prerogative again of the president, similar to a cabinet reshuffle?
Listen, the governing party might have been discussing particular problems, and based on their analysis of those problems, then this view crossed their mind, and then it becomes a resolution. They know at all material terms the president might analyze the implementability of that. You know, let me just give you, there's nothing strange about it. Let me just come to the Reserve Bank. That's a resolution I said 1954, 54th conference.